today we're in the shop. We're gonna install solar on our hot camper. Luckily, this 21 model that we got is pre-wired. So the only thing we're gonna do is install solar panels, a controller, an inverter, and we're gonna install the solar panels with 3M tape. The solar panels we chose are flexible ones. They're made by Renogy. We're not getting sponsored in any way or form by this company, but we have Renogy panels on our Arctic Fox and they work really good, so we decided to go with the same brand. These panels, you can bend them about 20 on the 70 degrees, and because of the roof on the hot camper is very light and you cannot walk on it or nothing, and you have to push it up by hand. We want to have something light on the roof, so that's why we went with flexible panels. Controller, inverter, we're all going to install it, and we'll show you step by step how to do it. So this is the panel. It's 100 watts. You can bend it. They say you can screw it to the roof, and I'll believe that, but we're going to do it differently. What's the advantage and disadvantage of these panels? They charge better in low light condition than the rigid ones, but they get really hot in high light conditions. So that's where we're gonna install it with the tape. So there's gonna be light, or gonna be airflow underneath a little bit, and the moisture that's gonna build up on the roof has a way to dissipate and leave the roof, so they hopefully last longer.
All the products that we use in this video you can find in the video description below.
As you can see, the connection for the solar is right there between the two vents. So I like to line these two up in the middle and then use a splitter to go to the connector. We're going to wire them in parallel. So first things first, we're going to measure them so they're nice and straight. Then we're going to tape the surroundings of the panels. We take the panels off and we're gonna clean the roof and put a primer on. And the primer is needed so the tape is gonna be extra strong and it has a really good bonding. So I'm gonna do this. I'll see you back in a couple minutes. And while I'm doing this, Ruby is filming this from the top of her camper, from her Arctic Fox. And she's afraid of heights.
Hello.
Ready for cleaning. So we're gonna take them off, and then we're gonna clean the roof with alcohol. Let that dry for probably 10 minutes, and then install the primer. So to clean the roof, 3M recommends 70% isopropyl rubbing alcohol. So that's what we're gonna use. You can buy that at every pharmacy. So you just apply it to your cloth a little bit, and then start cleaning. While we let this sit and dry for about 10 minutes, we're going to clean the solar panels and get them ready for prime 2. So you want to make sure it's dry. So I take a paper rag and just see if there's nothing left behind, if it's nice and dry. And it is, so we're done with that. 3M tape primer 94, that's the one they recommend. You can put it on with cloth or a foam brush, so that's what we're gonna do. You put this on, wait 15 minutes till it's fairly set, and then we can put the panels back on. We checked if the primer was dry. It took a little bit more than 15 minutes, but maybe because I coated it a little bit too thick. We're gonna use the 3M tape. It's a VHB tape, very high bond. So hopefully the panels stay on. Let's try this. They recommend once you put it on, press really hard on it. They say about 50 pounds per square inch, but we'll see if we can do that. But we use a roller and we'll be really going to press on it. So. And why we're putting the tape on vertical instead of lengthwise, because this is the way the wind is going to come in when we're driving. So we hope the wind is not going to go underneath and lift the panels off. So we're going to put 5 strips on there. 3 is enough, that's what they say, but better safe than sorry. Want to measure it or just eyeball it? Guess we're eyeballing it, eh? Here. Like we explained before, these panels build up a lot of heat in hot circumstances. So if you can see it, I don't know if it's seeable on the camera, but you can see that there's a little tiny air gap when we put the tape on. So the heat can come out through the side as also condensation and moisture. I get the one. Yeah. Oh. So for a maximum adhesive bonding, they recommend that you leave the panels sit for 24 hours in a stable environment. So no water, no cold. So we're gonna leave it in the shop for 24 hours and hopefully that will make them solid on the roof. Within a week, we're gonna make a 3,000 kilometer trip to Waterton National Park in southern Alberta. It's always windy there. So if we come back and they're still on, I think it's approved. Part of the solar setup is this panel. Supposedly there are 2 screws behind it. You can take the panel off and it gives you room to install your solar controller. And then in this cabinet, there's this little panel that I have to take out, and the wiring for the solar controller supposedly is behind there. So I'm gonna take that out, take this panel out and come back to you, and then we'll see what we find. I removed off camera the screws behind this panel, and the sink is in the way. So you need something like this to get to the 1 screw here in the far corner. And then you can remove this. If we look inside, there's all the electrical, there's the water pump. Some different models will have a water heater here. We didn't have that option, so we got lots of storage. I looked and looked for those solar wires that they say were behind here. They're not. So I finally found them in the battery cabinet. Just to be safe, I checked continuity between the roof and these wires to make sure that they're labeled as solar, but they're actually connected, and they are connected. My advice would be, if you start working on the electrical system, take the power off, because you don't want to short the camper out. So here we have the Renogy Solar 30 amp charge controller. You can either mount it on top, which I don't like. I like flush mount everything so it doesn't stick out, but the hole's not big enough. So I'm gonna make that hole a little bit bigger off camera, and I mount everything, and I'll come back to film that. Flush mount. Opa. Okay, so I got the wiring installed off camera. For other four-wheel camper owners, this is the wiring that we exposed for the solar. There's a hole here. I made it a little bit bigger. They siliconed it at factory, and you're going back into the camper and also put a wiring for going to the battery from the controller. So if I close this, in order to get behind there is a vent here in front of the inverter, like this. You have to take that away, and then underneath the inverter there is a space where the wiring comes out. Lots of wiring actually, and it goes into the corner of the top cabinet, where I got it there with the original wiring. I taped it to the wiring loom all the way to the top, and now we're gonna install it to the solar controller. For me, because I forget everything, I put a knot in the wire that comes from the panels. So I know, because they look pretty much the same, this is the wire that goes on the connection for the panels. This is the wire that comes from the battery. Okay, so this is the back side of pretty much every charge controller. You got a couple connections. So battery plus and ground. This is here you connect the wires that come from your battery. So that's that short wire that I just mentioned. PV plus, PV ground. Here goes the wires for your panels. What's very important, you always connect the wires for the batteries first, and then you connect the wires for the panels. In our case, it doesn't matter because the panels are not hooked up yet, but this is how you connect it. So this is my battery connector. Take the insulation off. Twist them so they're nice and tight. I think these are thin wires, but actually rated up to 40 amps. Our panel's not going to deliver more than probably 12, so that's more than sufficient. I stick them in. The red one, in my case, is positive. The black one, negative, coming from the battery. As you can see, battery plus, red, battery ground, black. So now is the panels. Like I said before, you always connect the battery wires first, and then you do the panel wires. And make sure before you connect the panel wires that your battery connections are hooked up. In our case, the solar panels are not hooked up yet, so that's why I can do it this way. Make sure they're nice and tight. Give them a little tug. They're good. And go here. So you have your charge controller. So connecting the battery is real simple. Red goes to the positive. Always make sure you have a fuse, an inline fuse in there. This is nothing fancy, something I had kicking around. It's good for 30 amps. Our solar panels don't deliver more than 12, so it should be good. I'm gonna hook this up, and then we're gonna make the wiring for the panels, and then we'll see if it works. Okay, so off camera I made this white splitter, but on one side the solar panel connectors, on the other side the SAE connector that comes with the camper. What I always do is put some dielectric grease in every connection that is outside. Just prevent it from getting moisture in it, get corrosion, and seal it up a little better. I know the solar connectors are sealed up, but you know, better safe than sorry. You maybe think, why are those boxes on the roof? Well, because those solar wires been curled up for a while and my arms are not long enough to reach over to the other end of the roof. So we do power to power and ground to ground, so it's going to be a parallel connection. That's because we use regular style batteries, not lithium. Why? Lithium, if we want to do travels to places, if one breaks, it's hard to get another one. If you ship it in a sea can, you can't have lithium, and then you have to carry it to every destination where you ship your camper to. So it's just harder, and we don't use that much power. So other than that, it should work. Well, this is it. Now it's one thing, test, see if the system actually charges. Okay, it's all hooked up. Let's see what we got here. Let's see. Well, battery voltage is 12.7 volts. Temp of the battery is 25 degrees. It's not hooked up, but I don't know. So our solar panel now is 12.7 volts, and it's pulling in 1.5, 1.6 amps, and it's pretty overcast. It's like late afternoon, so it's pretty good. We're not using anything, so no wattage used. And then we're back to battery voltage. So I guess we did a good job. Everything's working. Now we have to try it out in real life.